And I'm allowed to begin with.
That you are, my dear. That you are.
Yeah.
Man. I can't believe I made the mistake of choosing Mario. I'm not used to his controls at all. Like, I've been using Luigi on Super Mario Run this entire time, and I made the mistake of trying to play Mario. And I actually won this one. Okay, it's not so bad.
Are they different?
Yeah. So Mario's controls are pretty much the standard or whatever. Luigi jumps a lot higher, but he's a little bit harder to control, which means his controls are a little less responsive. So you have to time him more carefully. And I gotten so used to playing with Luigi because he can jump higher, get those coins, that when I switched to Mario, I don't remember why I did. I think just on a whim. That I've been correcting for Luigi this whole time. And I try to do it for Mario, and his controls are more on point. So, needless to say, it's a bit of a fiasco. But I used to win this one, so. And then I think those two are the only ones who can take 2 hits. So you can have a mushroom and make them grow. The other ones, Princess, Toad, Toadette, Yoshi, they don't grow. So basically, it's 1 hit and you're done, kind of thing with them. But they have powers to balance it out.
This is the mobile game, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just for a second, I think I either missed or forgot and had a moment where I forgot what game exactly you were talking about. And because you're talking about Luigi jumping higher, I thought you were talking about the original Super Mario 2 in America, which I know was Doki Doki something.
Panic.
But
yeah.
Doki Doki Panic, which that was where they introduced that whole idea of, and Luigi was my favorite to play as because his jumps were NBA-style jumps of just hanging in the air for 5 years.
Yeah, Luigi or Vladi Divac.
My favorite in that was Princess, I think. Just because of the floating. Yeah, the floating. Yeah.
The floating was super useful, but I whatever reason, I had an easier time with the Luigi jumps, with just the having time to compensate for stuff. I don't know. Also, I like Luigi.
Yeah. Super Luigi U was fun to, well, I'm not going to say play because I didn't have a Wii or a Wii U, but I sometimes watch the videos on YouTube, and it's fun to see, like, the whole gameplay. They took advantage of Luigi's controls. They only gave you 99 seconds. They gave him his own little, like not villain necessarily, but antagonist and Nabbit, the kleptomaniac rabbit. But yeah, like, Luigi's always had different controls. Everything ever since Super Mario 2. Like,
yeah.
In the original one, it's basically the exact same. He's just player 2. But ever since Doki Doki Panic, and I heard in the Lost Levels that Luigi's controls have always been a little bit different, and that's what makes him so much fun.
Yeah, so that second game always has a very special place in my heart.
Speaking of people with a special place in our heart, John?
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
I should say, hey, he's John. Hey, I'm Jack.
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Lauren.
And we are Glib Shark. Oh, man, we are surviving PAX South. And a little bit of announcement that I definitely want to talk about, like, once a bit of news that came out. And, games, culture, whatever. And we'll get into all that in just a bit. But first, as always, or at least as often as we can, we have the lovely, the talented, the amazing Oboe Crazy here to do a little something that we call This Week in Geek. How are you, Lauren?
I'm tired. It's been an exhausting week, guys. And I didn't get to go to PAX and hug a bunch of friends. But that's okay. It's not that long until RTX, right? Oh, okay. Anyway, if you're like me, and I know I am, when you watched Rogue One, not only did you enjoy it very much, but you came away with one question. Where was Wedge? That's right. If you're a fan of Wedge Antilles, when it got to that final big battle, you were kind of wondering where he was, because, I mean, Red Leader and Gold Leader showed up, and all these other characters from the first original movie. Where's Wedge? Well, okay, so there's a couple of reasons Wedge is not in Rogue One, but there's one really main one. So the reason Red and Gold Leader show up is because they were able to find unused footage of those actors playing that role from the original Star Wars, and were able to write around the dialogue that they got and reuse them, which added just a whole bunch of fun continuity. But there was actually a story reason why Wedge is not in the movie. Story group member Pablo Hidalgo from the Lucasfilms story group said over Twitter that there's this very reasonable explanation for why Wedge couldn't have been on Scarif, because he's never seen the Death Star before A New Hope. And how do we know he's never seen the Death Star before A New Hope? Well, at the end of A New Hope, when the X-Wings are flying towards the Death Star to blow it up, you hear Wedge say, "Look at the size of that thing." That's right. Wedge, obviously, at that point, that was the first time he had seen the Death Star. So it obviously implies he couldn't have seen it before then, because otherwise he wouldn't have been surprised at the size of it. There's also, other issues about there's no extra Wedge footage lying around because he was so awesome that they had to use all of his footage, but that's just me. So that doesn't necessarily mean that that character wasn't around and doing cool stuff. He just wasn't at the fight and never actually saw the Death Star before A New Hope. We've actually seen Wedge show up in Star Wars Rebels. There was actually a whole episode dedicated to him defecting from the Empire to the Rebellion. And to Lucasfilm sound designer Matthew Wood, Wedge stayed on Yavin 4 to talk to flight personnel and direct them to Scarif. So he's actually ancillary to the fight that you get to see in Rogue One in a rather important way. He just was never actually there. So as much as it hurt my heart to not see basically who I claim is one of the real heroes of the Star Wars franchise that you never really get to see, and one of the few smart pilots who actually, pulls up and gets out of the line of fire before they're shot. And now at least there's a real reason. Speaking of people who really need a real reason, PETA. All right, listen, I am as much of a bleeding heart liberal as anyone. I definitely don't want to see animals mistreated. And as much as I am also a carnivore, I want those animals to live a wonderful, happy life and die with dignity before they end up in my hamburger. And I am absolutely 100% behind the idea of people for the ethical treatment of animals, except that the people running people for the ethical treatment of animals are crazy people who on a very regular basis do crazy things in order to get attention. And I know by talking about this story, I'm giving them the attention they deserve, but I also am a bleeding heart liberal. So who are PETA going after this time? It's Warhammer 40K, specifically Games Workshop and their Space Vikings, because PETA UK have written to Games Workshop and asked them to stop having their characters wearing animal fur and make them fur-free. Now, there's a whole bunch of quotation marks around a lot of this that you can't see because, for one, the miniatures, no, they don't have real fur on them. They don't even have fake fur on them. They're made out of, plaster and resin and metal. Second, it's not real. They're fake characters from the far-flung future, Space Vikings, and with Space Wolves and Space Marines and other things with the adjective space before them. So yeah, they're depicted as wearing fur on top of their armor, and yeah, it doesn't really exist, but PETA wants them to stop. And they try to use the real reason that nothing on the bloody battlefields of Warhammer's conflict-ravaged universe could match the terrible reality of the fur trade, which is probably true, considering the terrible reality of the fur trade is real and Warhammer is fake. However, listen, guys, go after people who are actually abusing animals. Go after people who show those real horrors. Talk to the people who really make a difference. Don't go after plaster and metal figures that show fake characters wearing space fur from space stuff. Because the bleeding heart liberal hamburger lover in me wants you to be taken seriously. And when you pull these kind of stunts, we can't take you seriously. Also, oh my God, have you ever had to paint Warhammer 40K minis? Those are amazingly difficult. Hair is so hard to shade, guys. Finally, I know last year, the running bad thing about last year was so many wonderful people passing away. And everyone was all looking forward to 2017 because apparently that meant no one was going to die anymore. Well, guess what? Reality is people die, except for me. I'm going to live forever. Unfortunately, who is not living forever is John Hurt. Did pass away recently from his fight with cancer. And sad as that was, it's also, as many of these deaths have been, a reminder for people who don't know who he is about how awesome he is. Now, I'm not going to go through his entire IMDb page. One, because you can go to IMDb and look him up. Two, because it's huge. But he was in a ton of genre stuff. Amazing genre stuff. A lot of it is going to get talked about a lot, as there are the retrospectives. I'm going to couple of little things real quick that won't necessarily be brought up beyond some of the major things that he did. First, if you are a Henson like me, you probably remember him as the narrator from the Storyteller TV series. Now, if you don't know what the Storyteller is, this was a TV series in the late 80s. I think there are only like a dozen episodes or so. Most of them, you can find them online. And it's basically John Hurt narrating old European folktales. And it's the Jim Henson Company. But it's Jim Henson Company doing like Dark Crystal stuff. So it's Brothers Grimm with all of the Grimm stuff. People getting killed and turned into awful animals and dying and things like that. And John Hurt was, as he has been for basically the past 30 years, the perfect grizzled old guy, storyteller. Definitely go look it up. It's kind of awesome. If you want to go even further back in history and see something super creepy but awesome, you can go see the animated Lord of the Rings movie from 1978. This is the old rotoscoped Ralph Bakshi movie that has kind of an amazing voice cast all around. John Hurt plays Aragorn, and it's an amazing watch, if only because it's a style of animation you don't really see anymore, and it is creepy and amazing as hell, and it's totally worth it, especially if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. Speaking of animation, we've talked a little bit about how Watership Down is being remade. Well, if you want to see the original animated movie from 1978, because apparently that was the year for awesome animated movies, John Hurt plays Hazel, the basically arguably the main character of the movie. Also definitely worth a watch, especially if you are not, say, 8 and think it's an animated movie that you should watch because it's animated, and your parents think it's fine because it's animated and all animated things are okay, and oh my god, what is happening to those bunnies? Finally, everyone knows John Hurt from the Alien movie, from that very first Alien movie. He is the guy on the Nostromos who has the facehugger attached and gets the alien bursting out of his chest. What I love is that after playing that iconic character in 1987, he also appeared in Spaceballs, where, towards the end of the movie, you see a whole bunch of people, including John Hurt, at a space bar, hanging out. And then a very similar scene happens in where he gets sick and an alien bursts out of his chest, which then sings and dances and plays itself off. And you hear John Hurt get to go, "Oh no, not again," as he basically plays that same character. The fun thing about that, not only is he, of course, playing, basically making fun of himself, which I always love. If you watch the credits, John Hurt isn't playing a character from Aliens. And John Hurt isn't playing, quote, himself. John Hurt is playing a character called John Hurt. That's all for This Week in Geek. I'm Oboe Crazy, and one of these days I'm going to have a movie made about me, and I want to play me, credited as me.
Until that day, if you have a fact you want read live and on the air, say, for instance, you're having lunch with Wedge Antilles and your hamburger is in the shape of John Hurt, you can send it to Lauren at obocrazy.com. I didn't say it'd be an appetizing fact, but a fact you should submit to This Week in Geek nonetheless, because she will read it live and on the air. And while you're at it, while you're internet surfing, as the kids do, go to our website, glibshark.com, full of all those resources, the stuff that we do. Classic Jenga Jam, All-Time Buttcast, Modern Glibshark, and of course, Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks. Glibshark.com. Bookmark that shit. But we got two gentlemen on the broadcast who have been to PAX South, and I want to hand the baton, as it were, over to them. The first is very familiar to our listeners because he's here basically every week, including the ones that I'm not. Jonathan, Hey, man.
Hey, and real quick, people's issue with 2016 and people dying wasn't that they thought that once 2016 was over that people would stop dying. It's a lot of people just died during 2016's reign, and a lot of other bad shit happened. And people were hopeful for 2017 that maybe less people would die.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But I find it funny that, at least for me personally, when I saw the news that John Hurt had died on Twitter, it was in reference to the fact that, come on, 2017, you're supposed to be better than this. And I'm like, no. Anyway, yeah, you are correct.
And it's not like a whole Miracle Day situation. I mean, I feel like that'd almost be worse than people dying. Like, people not dying. Like,
I'm totally okay with that.
Same.
Bring on non-death. As I said,
I agree.
I'm living forever.
I don't know. I feel like it's a very deep Torchwood reference there, but like that could be. It comes with its own. If nobody at all died, there's a whole host of problems that come with that too.
True.
We figured that
I would
shit
like
out.
to live with those problems.
Yeah, we figured it out.
Will we though?
Yep.
I'm taking time away from the other gentleman who attended PAX South. A dear buddy of mine. If you've listened to Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks, you know the voice of one Carlton Tanks, our dear friend John. Hey man, how you doing?
That's me.
That's you.
Yay, me.
Ah, gosh.
I'm fine. I got a little bit of the con crud, but other than that, I'm all right.
PAX Box. It's the worst.
PAX Pac, con crud, all the same.
Yeah. How was PAX, guys?
It was really good.
I think John and I were talking. This has probably been the best PAX that we've been to date.
Wow. That's
Like the lowest of the lows was still pretty mid tier.
Yeah, like
and that was a bad DM.
Yeah,
really,
there
low
was
point of our trip was a bad dungeon master.
So, just for reference, this was a very unique PAX for me because it was a very focused PAX. I remember, like, PAX South, and I think my last PAX Prime, now PAX West, fuck that. We got it from the original guy, one Mike Krahulik, that he still calls it PAX Prime. So I still call it PAX Prime. We'll get to that in a bit.
Call it Prime.
Yeah. So for me, it was a very focused PAX. Like the previous couple have been a little kind of like, I'm showing up, I'm hanging out, I'm seeing people, but I didn't really do anything. Like I went to a few panels and I basically just had lunches and hung out with people, which is fine. That's a great PAX. Went to karaoke and all those times, and all of that was good. This time, I played a lot of fucking D&D, and John played a lot of D&D.
Yeah.
And we watched a lot of D&D, and we watched people who played D&D give panels and shit. Yeah, it was a very D&D heavy panel. Just for reference, they had an Adventure League area at the tabletop kind of place, and it was I think I played like 4 sessions that weekend. And for those who don't know, Adventure League is sort of like sanctioned official D&D. It's a means by which you could show up to a game store and just hop into a game knowing that the characters they're playing with are all balanced more or less. I know Obo's mentioned it before, and John has mentioned it a bunch. And this was I know I've made Adventure League legal characters, but I've not actually played in any Adventure League stuff until this weekend, and it was fucking blast.
I mean, technically, our game is Adventures League. You don't have to do it at a game store.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is that I'd never played one with strangers.
Yeah.
It's exhilarating even when it's bad. I've had both the good and the bad experience with playing complete strangers, and even it is one of those games, at least in my opinion, that even when it's bad, it's kind of awesome and memorable because it's so bad.
One of the strangers was very glad that I was at his table because I Frankensteined him back to life.
So for context...
Were you clearing it up?
No.
I was a wild magic sorcerer.
Oh.
Why did you tell that one?
So it was I was a second level sorcerer. This guy was a first level. It was the first roll with the first encounter with the first monster, and the DM rolls a natural 20, and I saw the 20 and I went, oh fuck, which did the standard damage that the monster does, would have killed him. Massive damage killed him outright. So the DM's like, all right, well, you know what? I'll roll it in hopes that I don't kill you outright. And he still killed him outright because of massive damage. First level characters have like 10 hit points.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the guy, it was a water weird that we were fighting. And the guy was engulfed by the water weird. And I go to the DM, I'm like, hey, so like, if I hit him with a witch bolt and he's in the water, can I Frankenstein him back to life? And the DM's like, let's see what happens when you hit. And so I rolled and I hit and I did a witch bolt and I shocked him back. I basically defibrillated him, and got him to, instead of being completely outright dead, got him to doing death saving throws, and then he was able to come back up and get healed that way. So I saved his characters by defibrillating him with a witch bolt as a sorcerer.
You basically did lay on hands without the hands.
With a giant lightning bolt.
Well, lay on hands wouldn't have done anything for this character because he was dead. It was thanks to the DM's allowance of this little bit of RP and this little bit of saving this guy's character that allowed him to bring him from dead to dying without a revive or anything.
Yeah, that way he didn't have to waste his faction revive, because in Adventurers League, being a low-level character is dangerous because shit like this can happen. So they have a mechanic where you get one free revive up to level 5. After level 5, you got to pay for it. So instead of having him have to waste his one free revive, the DM thought the RP was clever enough that he would make it so he had to do death saves, and then if the dice, however the dice played out, the dice played out.
But he basically saved him from massive damage death, which for the first roll of the first encounter of the first fight would have sucked to be. Yeah. I mean, he was basically out of the rest of the fight, and he did end up leaving the table a little bit early, but
I think that's just because he had to see something else.
Right. He was off, but I think he was hoping to get a combat encounter in, and yeah. But
a little bit of one.
A little bit of one. So John was playing a halfling wild magic sorcerer, while I was playing this weekend a human female, a variant human rogue who was mobile. She took the mobile feat, so she ran around and hit a lot, so she ran and disappeared, very much like the Overwatch character Tracer. This was a Tracer rogue. So
nice.
She was running around doing stuff. I got to do the Tracer voice. Cheers, love! The cavalry's here, and it was tons and tons of fun. She was a hit at every table, and a friend of the show, Izzy, mentioned that she might have to steal that idea from me because it sounded fun apparently. But that was the big part of the weekend. Just tons of D&D played, meeting a lot of new people, and like John said, the DMs were pretty good. I know one of the games that I played in that he didn't, that was probably my favorite DM because 1, he used a battle map, and 2, he was pretty competent running the game. There was one guy who was just a super lazy DM, just absolutely terrible. It was 25 minutes before we made our first roll of any kind in that game.
Yeah, and I even tried. Like, I tried saying, like, oh, I want to go up to this guy. He's like, and you see this guy, but I'm like, well, I want to go talk. And he just kept going on. And like a good example was you see this guy roiling up with anger, and then he takes a pause. I'm like, at that moment, I'd be like, I want to go talk to him and see what's on his mind. And he's like, and then he burst out and just starts exposition. And I'm like, let me find out. I want to role play.
He just absolutely didn't. Like, he was going to run this game his way. No battle map. No interaction, pretty much. So when we got to this first fight, like, we had been sent out into the woods to hunt for food. So we see food appear, and we shoot it. And then he's like, oh, I can't believe you guys did that. Okay, I guess we're doing this. And it's like, dude, you left us no choice. Like, we had no idea that we had any other options besides, hey, there's a stag, let's shoot it. It was just an abysmal little game, and he had been kind of talking before about how he was very proud of how many characters he had killed, I
didn't hear that part.
I told you, I was like, I think I want to go, and he's like, why? And you're like, why? Because
I thought because he was making fun of the Tracer thing.
No,
I didn't hear him say how many characters he had killed.
Yeah, he was bragging about it. That's why I wanted to leave.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't hear that part.
And I'm in the end, I'm glad I didn't, because even though it was 2 hours that was kind of a waste, he also didn't know his magic items. John found that out too.
Yeah, he also didn't know my AC. He's like, that can't be your AC. I'm like, no, your base AC is 10 plus your dex, because I'm playing a magic character, so I'm not wearing armor. He's like, oh, so 13, is that with major? I'm like, no, I have a +3 dex. He's like, well, no, that's only for a class thing. I'm like, no, the class thing is barbarian or monk, and it is an additional stat. He's like, oh no, it's this way. I'm like, fine, my AC is 10, and then because some people are more experienced than me, and I thought I might have been wrong. I wasn't. But I looked it up in the PHB, and I was right, and so I just gave myself those hit points back.
Yeah.
Because unlike our game, where it is a homebrew, the rules are your rules. This is Adventures League. You follow the rules in the book, and that's why Adventures League is nice, is because every DM has the same set of rules they play by. There's no variation, and so you can't have one DM that's like, oh, well, your death saves don't reset, or this or that, et cetera, et cetera. It's everybody's rules as written. And so you can go from one table to another and know exactly the type of gameplay you're going to have, and not have to worry about like what's going to be different.
I will say though that even you say that, but the fact that there were battle maps and not battle maps really bugged me. I wish that there was a standard for that. Like, because if it's all going to be theater of the mind, I don't want to do that. That is not the way I want to play, and especially for a character like Tracer Rogue, where movement and position on the board is extremely important. It's like, okay, well, I move 40 feet this way. It's like, okay, but in theater of the mind without a battle map, that's no fun.
Yeah,
Listen,
I would say out of all the games I've played of AL, only the 2 that we did this weekend were theater of the mind. And I think it was kind of like, since it was a con with limited resources, stuff like that, it was just easier to try to do theater of the mind. Whereas some people did have the time to put into it, but some people might have prioritized PAX as opposed to D&D.
And as someone who has run a lot of theater in the mind, and D&D, as much as I use a basic grid, there's a lot of times where you guys are running combat and where I haven't really drawn in very much.
Oh, you draw multiple anything.
Well, and some of it is just because of it's a little more difficult in Roll20 to just throw a battle map up there. If you guys get into an encounter that I'm not prepared for, I don't want to spend 20 minutes drawing it out. It's not like a home game where I could just grab a dry erase marker and go nuts. But even when I do run in my home game, when I've ran no battle maps, I've still at least put minis out, if only because unless you're running incredibly simple combat, or unless you're only ever playing against 1 or 2 monsters, it can get very easy to forget who is where attacking what and when. Yeah. And so even when I wasn't doing battle maps, which I did a lot for the first my first go through running for my 5th edition group at home, I would put minis out, if only to be like, okay, you guys are fighting 6 goblins. And then if there were goblins in melee combat with other characters, I would at least put their mini next to a goblin, so that they knew which goblin was getting attacked by who, because that kind of combat can get crazy after a little while. And certainly for you guys, for Dungeon Drunks, as much as I don't have the time to throw a battle map together when you guys just get into a fight somewhere, that's the reason that I at least put your minis out on the grid, so that when you need to know how far away something is, when you need to talk about positioning, it can be there. And, then I can RP around all the rest of that shit. So it's not as I wish I could more often. And certainly I'm happier with 5th edition as far as that kind of thing goes, because there was 0 way you could run 4th edition without minis and a battle map. You had to. Every character, every power included movement and moving and forced movement and all kinds of other movement options and line of sight, and you had to be on a grid. That was a battle crazy thing. So, but I am surprised Adventurers League doesn't standardize that kind of thing, if the whole idea is to have a standardized set of games.
Yeah. No, I mean, the only time I've ever like in D&D that had annoyed me a little bit was like when there's a hindrance and it's not drawn. It's like, I want to run this way. Well, there's bleachers there. All right, I want to go here. Still bleachers. All right, how far until the bleachers end?
Yeah. Well,
Because like
and
I couldn't see. I didn't know where the bleachers were, and it was like hard trying to figure out because of the chaos of 7 basilisks.
yeah, and I did eventually draw in some stuff, but it was the chaos of everything.
Battle.
Anyway,
But yeah, I do it the same way where it's like minis on the table. If I have to throw it on the grid, I will, but minis on the table at least.
yeah.
All right. Well, I kind of want to tie off the PAX discussion because there's other things that I want to get to. But we did also, like I said, we watched Acquisition Incorporated, which was great. We got to play test Thornwatch.
Yeah.
And
Really? How was it?
it's coming along. There are some rules differences, and rather than get into specifics, I will just say that it is run very smoothly. There were a couple of nuances that our game master and judge, aka Gabe, Mike Krahulik, is he Gabe or Tycho? I can never remember.
Gabe.
Gabe, I believe.
He's Gabe.
But he was running our game. And right before he played, he's like, you know what? Hey, let's try these new rules that we're going to be testing out because it's testing, and that was a ton of fun. And
Yeah, we were all about that.
Yeah, we got to interact with him a bunch, have some fun. We found out about this PAX Unplugged that is going to be in Philly, fucking the same weekend as BGG Con.
I
thought it
was
was
worried
weekend
about
before.
that.
I
that
thought it was
sucks.
before, but it turns out it is that weekend. We'll see what happens. I think it's bunk that a board game convention was scheduled at literally the same time as the original board game convention.
I feel like this is a Reed Pop move.
It might be. It very well could be. And to their defense, Mike said that he did not know about that BGG even had a con, and it could be that it was specifically on this weekend because, frankly, BGG.con tickets are hard to get. And if I decided to go to PAX Unplugged versus BGG Con, they would have no trouble finding someone to buy my ticket. In fact, there are too many people at BGG Con as is.
And Mike brought up a good point. He said sometimes you're at the will of the convention centers on when you can get in there.
But the same fucking weekend? That
Yeah.
is for two events that are almost exactly the fucking same?
Yeah, it's a little coincidental. I do like how you did present the game designers, not just Mike Krahulik, but the game designer himself, with a scenario that they're like, yeah, we're going to have to look into that. The game ending scenario.
Right. There was something we did. I basically fireballed a bunch of villagers, and there was a question about resolution of that fireball because there was one enemy, 4 innocent villagers, and 3 of my teammates in that fireball, who also included our good friend Dan Ullman, tall guy, Mr. Arceus. He hung up with us pretty much the entire weekend. We roomed with him.
smallshowers.tumblr.com.
Yep. It was awesome. I don't get to hang around with them very much. Also, we had John Crazy Boy Sharp, a.k.a. Hat, in our room too, so that was fun. And just seeing everyone was great. But anyway, so related to PAX, but more related to stuff that was going on. Earlier in the weekend, we found out that there was going to be a protest march that weekend, that Sunday, in fact, at PAX, unrelated to PAX, but kind of protesting some of the shit that happened this weekend. We had some very questionable, extremely questionable executive orders go through, and people at PAX felt like this was the time to leverage some of the crowd that was there at the convention. And I actually thought, while we were walking around, I was like, what if this many people, these throngs of people, marched somewhere this weekend in support of a cause? And we didn't get everyone to do it, but a young lady who I'll have to look at her name because it was in an article just a second ago. But
Trin? The
Trin?
person who ran it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget her last name, but Trin of Cards Against Humanity fame, Trin and Tonic, I think is their Twitter. She organized it all.
And as soon as I heard it, I was like, let's do this. Let's go. We found out other friends of ours were going to be going. Patrick Rothfuss, who we had gone to his panel and watched in Acquisition Incorporated, he was going to be there too.
We also listened to him bitch about the current state of affairs.
Yeah, that was great.
Got to protest with him about the current state of affairs.
It was awesome. So we headed out and met up with people. We made signs. I'm gonna put some of those signs up here in the stream.
And I'll just say this: both your signs were awesome. I love the detail in John's, but Jonathan Roblox, your Paragon sign was amazing.
I'm also putting up a sign that our good friend Jamie made, and it is just it is very simple and to the point. I'm putting up into the stream now. It's just a little phrase: rebellions are built on hope. And it is very, very Jamie.
Absolutely. It's good to see people, like a community, be able to come together for a common cause that actually has impact for people, not just in the community, of course, but far beyond. So thank you guys for protesting, because this is an issue, of course, that's very near and dear to my heart, as I'm sure it is to yours as well.
It seemed like the best time to do it, because you have all these like-minded people who are at PAX trying to have fun and watching things go terribly wrong in other parts of the world. I think Scott Kurtz was like, I'm watching all this happen, and here I am pretending to be a fucking dwarf.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a lot of that in PvP. I've been reading that lately, and his characters are kind of playing through this whole thing now. Actually, like his character, Cole from PvP, actually did a D&D campaign about how everything sucks now. And, one hand, like he had like Donald Trump as the villain or whatever, but it's pretty obvious that with his character, the character Cole, was sort of playing out his anger and frustration about the campaign. It's really his way of venting his frustration, and that didn't make for a good time for the players. And the players called him out on it, which I thought was really interesting and nuanced. But
and I definitely have felt that way about, and I talked about this in a Rooster Teeth journal. I feel like if I post, about playing oboe or other things, artistically, is this really, when is it ever really going to be the right time? And it took Lar de Sosa from Looking for Group to really kind of clarify that no, it's okay to do that kind of stuff too. It's okay to have fun. In fact, it's kind of important, because you can't be in crazy stressed protest mode all the time. You need time to decompress so that you can be ready for the next time it's time to protest. And everyone deserves to see a cute puppy or hear an oboe riff every now and then. But I'm really glad that you guys participated in this, not just because it was a chance to leverage the PAX community and do some good, but I think there were a lot of people at PAX who felt like, here I am having fun with my friends while this horrible thing is happening, and feeling not just powerless, but almost guilty for doing that. So I thought this was kind of a brilliant way to combat that.
And we weren't alone, and not just there in San Antonio, but in other places, more personally than I'll get to. But so John and I were walking around, and when we made our signs, John's sign got a lot of attention right away, and there weren't very many hard backings and wooden sticks for signs that you could hold like that. So right away, John's sign is picked by the organizers. Like, oh my god, we love that, we love it. Let's get that on a sign. Oh, excuse me. But John, why don't you go into the inspiration behind your sign?
The inspiration is I play a lot of fucking D&D. And he's the big bad end guy. And so, you were talking about protesting about feeling bad because we're having fun things. The reason I was out there is, 2 reasons. One, is very near and dear to my heart, not because I'm an immigrant or a person a Muslim faith, but because I'm a goddamn human being and we should all have the same equal rights. And also, if we don't speak up for those now, who will speak up for us when it's our turn? So it's I was in a community full of nerds. This is my way of showing what this guy is and turning him into the villain that he actually is. And I was telling Jonathan, like Jamie's sign, rebellions are built on hope. It's a good marching sign because it's quick, concise, and there's a lot of those. Mine is a social media sign. Mine was designed to be shared so that you can look at it later, because you're not going to see my sign and get what's going on just walking around town. It's too small print, yada, yada, yada. But people are going to get a kick out of it, and it will get posted and shared, and that'll help build awareness. Not that we need awareness, because millions of people are protesting in our country right now, but it helps show that we care.
Yeah, and that we're not going away.
And we're not going away. I actually I'm working on creating an actual monster stat block so you can use it in game. So I'll hopefully be releasing
it is really, really funny though. It cuts to a lot of the stuff that Donald Trump is, and his pettiness and the physical attributes we can make fun of.
Yeah, some of the finer points was damage, vulnerability, vicious mockery. He is immune to logic. He's resistant to facts, and he has a reaction called alternative facts. When attacked with facts, he will take that damage and return it onto one other target. And then he also has this tiny hands attack. I did get a lot of flack for giving him a +5 Constitution. People are like, "Oh, that's too high." I'm like, it's been really fucking hard to take him down. So yeah, he's got a +5 con.
Game logic holds up, but yeah, that's good to see. Good on you guys for doing that.
And it was funny because I mentioned we weren't alone, and there were a couple of meanings to that. I'm real sneezy all of a sudden.
Yay, thanks, Spock.
No, it's like allergy sneezes.
Oh, also he speaks English and Russian.
That was brilliant. That was fucking brilliant. So we get the stated goal of the march was to leave the convention center, march to a local senator's office, and then take pictures, chant there, and then that was going to be it. So when we get there, our coordinator finds out that there's another protest like a few blocks away. Just happened to be out there. And she's like, "Do you guys want to go?" And we're like, "Hell yeah, we want to go." So we had already been like geekily shouting and stuff. Like we had been waving at people. It was a very, very chill protest. In fact, the only asshole we ran into was a guy that was kind of walking past us. It was pretty early after we had left the deal. He's walking past with a friend, and he says, "Hey, get a job."
And we're like, "It's Sunday."
And immediately, like, his friend starts trying to hurry him along and shoo him away because it's like his friend is probably like, "Oh my god, fucking hell, really?" And then he yells, "Get a 401k." And I yell back, "I got one, bro." And god damn, Jamie is so awesome. She yells back, "Roth IRA, motherfucker."
Yep.
I don't remember if she used the motherfucker, but I choose to remember that she did.
It was at least implied.
We'll allow for a creative license in the telling of the story.
You know what?
Also,
That's the name of the episode.
Also, I like that the nice thing is my shirt is my chaotic neutral shirt, and it says "Aim to misbehave" as we're protesting. Which was better than my first choice of t-shirt, which was my lawful evil shirt, which says "Resistance is futile." And I'm like, maybe I don't wear that one.
Yeah.
So
excited.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we met up with us on the protest. It was still pretty chill. So we come around the block and like someone yelled, "Gondor calls for aid!" And so we were coming in and because we're fucking geeks. I yelled, "Cheers, love! The cavalry's here!" because I've been playing Tracer all weekend. One of the signs, I didn't see this sign. It said Dumbledore's army has arrived, which was fucking cool. I liked that one. And we stood around, we said hi to the cops, we took a bunch of pictures. I'm about to put one up of Patrick Rothfuss, who was there, and that was great. But we also weren't alone just in general. Our fellow Dungeons and Dragons and Drunk cast member and very, very, very good friend, Jules, aka Bernice Q. Burns, was also out this weekend. She was at the Raleigh-Durham airport protesting, and I have a picture of her sign up, and it says, "Donald Trump, the ACLU is coming for you. No ban, no wall." And it was fucking awesome that so many of us just in this little section of the internet, Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks, were out there that day. I'm so blown away by that, especially Jules, because like she totally went out of her way to go to the fucking airport and make her voice heard. So fucking awesome.
Even my godson was out protesting last weekend. A little guy holding his sign. Giving you tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to break free. Never mind the fact that this kid's born in Pennsylvania, in a hospital in Center City, Philadelphia, and his mother was born, in the United States too. But these are important issues, and there's a protest in Philadelphia happening on Saturday. I'm gonna try and come for at least a couple of hours. I have reasons that I can't do too much, or I have to limit what I'm able to do in terms of physical scene. I don't know. I kind of announced it on Facebook. If you guys want to.
It's up to you, dude.
Yeah,
it's your announcement.
Oh.
So
your announcement, man.
Yeah, I guess I'll announce it then. Someone will be dead.
Yay!
Yeah.
I actually said to Jonathan this weekend, I can't wait for like 35 years from now when I can actually call you Uppacha and mean it.
Yeah. Oh man. Well,
I am marking it on my calendar. 35 years.
Well, first things first, we actually had, we went to the doctor today, and we had the exam that tells us the gender. We actually asked not to be told, at least not right away. So I have an envelope that I handed to my sister. My sister and my monster nieces are going to come together on Saturday and actually throw us a gender reveal party. We're going to open up a box or something, and there's either going to be pink balloons or blue balloons. So
that's the thing. I have a friend from high school who did the exact same thing. And it was with balloons and everything. I didn't know this was a thing now, but it's so cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, a friend of mine from church did the exact same thing a couple of years ago when his kid was born. They did a whole photo shoot for it. I'm not going quite at that though, but there is a name that's significant to RT Philly history. It's actually happening in the Buca de Beppo in Exton. The one in Philly for RT Philly is sadly closed, but this one, about 10 minutes from where I live now, is actually still open, up and running, still has the crazy stuff on the wall, still same Buca de Beppo feel. We even have a little private room. So hopefully I don't have to slap anybody at this place. But
yeah. See, look, you were already prepared to go dad mode back in the day.
Yeah, that's right.
And you've
looking
got
for
dad
good
jokes
restaurants.
down pretty good.
Yeah, I'm like the king of dad jokes at this point. I feel like I'm
pretty sad.
Yeah, no, I don't even have to. I haven't really told a dad joke on the show for years, and I feel like my reputation is strong enough that
I feel bad for your kid that he's gonna get just a wave of dad jokes, just like a tsunami amount.
Yeah. Hi, hungry. I'm Jack.
Oh, jeez.
Hi, hungry. I'm Dad. Gotta get used to saying that.
Oh, that's right. I mean, first name. I'm Dad. That's just a crazy thing that I can actually say that's true. But yeah, I've been calling him or her Bean, so that's my nickname for her because they're like little Bean. But I also rather than call him my kid, I want to call him my cub. Stealing from my friends Zach and Heather. I think that calling a kid a cub is actually way cooler.
How about Shadow?
Yeah, I actually have names names picked out for boys and girls. I'll wait until after this kid moves out of his current apartment before I reveal those. But sadly, of course, the trade-off of fatherhood is that I won't have to miss a bunch of stuff that I would otherwise go to. Most notably PAX. Not PAX. RTX.
Yeah, but that's only this year.
Yeah, it's only this year. I think after a year, I'm lucky enough to have all four will be grandparents around. So I'll have people to help out. I'm not alone. I have a lot of really good support network, really good family and friends. So I'll be able to pawn off. I'll be able to be a deadbeat dad for 3 days and then come right back and apologize profusely and bring a nice big toy.
But no more summer babies.
Well. I mean,
I don't think that's entirely up to him.
Not even that. That's up to God, really. I'm not young either, so one and done might be it. For
your penis is still involved.
Yeah. No, I got it.
There are steps you can take.
There are extenuating circumstances, and the fact that shop closes up after a certain amount of years. There's a certain window that I'm trying to hint at, so to speak. But I mean, let me get one out of the way. My wife, if I don't even mention the specter of the possibility of a second child, she is 21 weeks along, so she is not hearing it. She's like, shut it down, Yohanan. Shut it down. Yohanan being the Malayalam word for my name. But he's like, shut it down. And I'm like, yes, dear. I'll make you a sandwich
Love
now.
you.
Yes.
Some ice cream.
Yes. Yeah. So still trying to work out what it's going to mean for, well, I mean, I'll be back. But, like, I think I'm probably going to have to take some, like, parental leave from the podcast for a couple of weeks. But I'll be back. But not right away. So this isn't none of this is happening until, like, summertime. So we can talk about it more then. But I figured I'd just get it out there.
Hey, it was your time. It was your call whenever you were ready.
And we announced
tell
on
people.
Facebook a couple of days ago, just because, like, you know, she wanted to time the public announcement with her birthday. We did exactly that, and I thought it was the cutest way we revealed it. We just sort of had our beagle, who you may have heard on past episodes of D&D. He's in the back right now, like taking a nap and dreaming, actually. And yeah, there's a sign, the 2 chalkboards that says, "My mommy has the best present, but she can't open it until June." So there it is. And then there's another sign that says, "Not sure if want," because he's a dog and he's not going to be the baby anymore, and he's going to have to share with a furless. My fur child is going to have to have a furless child around too. So
Yeah, he'll deal. He has to deal.
But yeah, all the more reason to fight for a freer, fair world. And I'm doing my part, trying to just set a better example for people. And, like, now I'm somebody's dad. So, like, or going to be somebody's dad. So, like, or am somebody's dad because I'm
I
Catholic.
think technically you are at this point.
Yeah.
I think,
Kind of locked in.
yeah, I think
Round up to the nearest kid.
it's
Yeah.
it's one thing that I tried to tell people this weekend, because there were quite a few, including our roommate Dan, who said, "Oh, I wish I could have gone." There were people we ran into that physically couldn't make the walk or whatever. The biggest message I think that you can take from this is that as long as you're doing something, marching, donating, just talking about it, calling people, that's the best. If that's the best you can do, that's great. At least it's something. I think that's the most important thing, is to do something. We were in a very fortuitous position to take part in this. It really, quite frankly, it didn't take much effort on our part to do this. And I think it was a lot of fun, and it was something cool, and I'll definitely do it again, but not everyone could. And I think, like I said before, the best example of getting out there and doing something was by far Jules, who went out there and just kicked a lot of ass. And
I'd be afraid to be on the opposite side of her.
yeah, same. And the reason why she's not here is because she kicks so much ass that she needs to rest up. Like you were saying, we all need a break.
Yeah,
So-
not everyone can do everything. Do what you can, and when you can't, then this is your time to rest for the next time you can, so that someone else can rest.
Yeah, to quote the great Arthur Ashe, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can.
There is one more thing I did not get to talk about vis-a-vis PAX, and I guess this will make it a good light end to the show. I was walking around with Dan and just kind of hanging out. This was on Friday, and I get a text from a good friend, Larry, aka Dark Schneider, D Schneider, and I hadn't seen him, so I was very excited to get a text from him. And he's like, "Hey, so we're in line for True Dungeon, and we have a spot." And immediately my ears perk up, because I'm like, wait, True Dungeon is here? For those of you who don't know, True Dungeon is an event that has traditionally been held at Gen Con. What it is a immersive dungeon experience. It is loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons, but instead of playing on a board, you play in a maze. It's sort of a precursor to the modern escape rooms that we have, except it's a dungeon adventure. At Gen Con, it takes about 2 hours. It costs around $50 to $80, depending. And it is an amazing experience from everything I've heard. Like, you go into these rooms, you have puzzles, you have monsters to fight, you get loot. It's just incredible. And I was like, wow, that seems like that'd be really cool. I'd love to do that sometime. But I haven't been to Gen Con yet. So to be told that True Dungeon is at the very convention that I am at this moment, I'm like, what the hell? What is this? I hadn't heard about this. I will be right there. And I go to Dan. I'm like, Dan, I'm sorry, I have to go. And Dan, being the big sweetheart that he is, was like, fine. So I get up there and I find out that it wasn't the whole True Dungeon experience. It was something that they were calling True Dungeon Lite, more like a demo for the actual True Dungeon, because they're planning on bringing the full thing to PAX South next year. Now, just to give you a reference for the scale of this particular operation, right now they hold True Dungeon at Lucas Oil Field in Indianapolis, where the Colts play. It takes up the fucking football field.
I wonder if they'll do it at Alamo Dome.
No, they don't have to. They can do it at the convention. Some of those halls are that big.
Oh, well. Yeah, I guess it's true. Like, there were a lot of closed doors.
And that's, I think, one of the reasons why PAX South is something that they are interested in, because the new convention center has that much room. And you're absolutely correct. If they did do it at the Alamo Dome, that would be like a quick lift over or a decent walk, and they could definitely
like
do it there. But they have the room to do it on site, which is fucking unheard of, and that's again speaks to the scale of the convention center that PAX South is at. But anyway, so I went and I did it. And I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. Even though, like I said, it was just pretty much a 2-room demo that they played fast and loose. We managed to get in line on Sunday for that session. And so John and Dan and some new friends that we made all went in and did it. And yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Yeah,
ton of fun.
They let you pull out some tokens, treasure tokens, and I actually got to pull 2 rares, so that was nice.
And they're tokens that you can use, like if you go to Gen Con or at PAX South next year, you can use this stuff when you go adventuring, because you have like, it's just like D&D. You have different item slots and all that. It was phenomenal, and I can't wait to see if they make that a reality. Also, I might be going to Gen Con.
That's very cool.
Yeah. It was just...
I've always wanted to go.
I kind of want to go as well, because I'm not a D&D addict at all.
Nope.
No, I'm not.
And Gen Con would be a terrible place for you to go if you like D&D.
No, I hate D&D. Why would I want to go there? I don't have a problem.
Anyway, I hope that this gave everybody a good idea of what happened this weekend. And yes, it was a lot of fun, and yes, a lot of stuff happened, but it was all about the people I was with. It was about my roommates. It was about the friends I ran into. It was about some of the friends I didn't run into and I would have liked to see. But it was a great PAX weekend. It really was.
Well, I'm glad you guys had a good time, and I'm looking forward to seeing a PAX in my own backyard. I don't know if I'll be able to go to the physical con or not. Depends on the tickets, but at the very least, if it brings people to my backyard, I'm happy to hang out. So reach out to me if you're going to PAX Unplugged.
I might be bringing. I know that I have talked about a couple of friends of mine, Jesse, who I play golf with, and Christy, who kicks my ass at workouts. We'll see. They were interested, and it's gonna, some decisions will be made. We'll have to see. But it's something that we are going to be talking about with my friends, one of whom runs BGG Con. So that's going to be an interesting conversation on Saturday.
Ooh, well, stay tuned, fellows. So, man, John, so good to hear from you again. So good to have you on Glib.
Yeah, it's always fun times.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
not that we talk every Monday, but it's good to do it out of character.
Yeah. So get some Jack to John time as opposed to Travancore to Carlton.
If I go to Philly, PAX Unplugged, it's in Philly.
Exactly.
I can visit family as well, and I'm pretty sure they'd appreciate that.
Yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone.
You're like, hey, Mom, love you, bye. I'm gonna go play board games.
Our apologies to Jack Edithel. We've run out of time. We can't talk about his weekend, which is probably just as well. Ah, man.
Jack, weekend.
It was good. I went to Kennett Square with the King of the Mushrooms.
We're good.
Yeah, now we got it all covered. Comprehensive. Our sound producer is Jonathan Kennett Square Cerna.
That doesn't apply to me at all.
Sometimes righteous indignation is the best response. So you may have heard some words at the beginning of this broadcast. Those come from Bob Ball, our announcer and a voice actor. You may have heard some music in the beginning of this broadcast. That comes from our dear friend Linnea Boyev. On behalf of Jonathan, Lauren, and the entire Glib Shark staff, this is Jack Edithil saying good night, good health, and do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Resist.
I'm gonna adjust that and say rage, rage against the dying of our rights.
Oh, wow, poignant. Very good.
I actually thought about that earlier this afternoon at work.